Hey there, rulers. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will. Classes are out, but if in case you needed a little bit of extra homework, help with that homework, you can come on in to Office Hours, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast featuring myself, Jeremy Franklin, and tonight I am joined by, as always, Paul Reisman. And returning after a little bit of a break, it's Billy Buttons.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Glad to have you guys here for a wonderful discussion about all kinds of things. And yes, I have seen in the chat, the contest is over. We're just announcing the giveaway, the winners. So sorry if that was a little bit mixed messaging, but some people are walking away with some cool prizes tonight. So we'll be announcing that later. But before we get started, if you like what we do here, you want to consider supporting us, click that subscribe button down below, as well as the little...
Yes, I have...
Oh my gosh, someone is not muting themselves. Paul Reisman.
Nope, that was my bad.
Paul.
That was my bad. But pulling up the chat. Okay, I need to see my people.
Paul. You can click that subscribe button down below. And if you like supporting us financially, you can consider clicking that little join button down below to become a member here on the channel. It is the easiest way to support us financially. And you get access to all kinds of cool things like the little badge names and the emotes. You see, we've already seen some Kiriks and some pandas and some all kinds of things there in the chat. So that is the easiest way to support us. But we're glad you're here regardless. So tonight we are talking about growth, particularly how we adapt and kind of grow to what we want this channel to be able to do in terms of what this channel needs to be for people during this time, particularly in response to, one, it's a new cluster, so it's a great time to kind of like reevaluate as new people come in, what kind of content we should be kind of pursuing. And two, COVID is still here. And COVID in Michigan is getting a little bit risky. So we got to kind of take some changes there. So I want to talk about what content, the kind of content mission has been for the channel and what we've done. And then kind of hear some feedback from you guys or some ideas from the two of you, as well as the community, about what content should look like, or like what kind of content we should be pursuing so that we can be the best channel for you. So to jump into that, so in the chat as we're going, if there are things that we have done in the recent history that you've really enjoyed, things that we should try to stray away from, ideas that you guys have, or things that we should try to pursue, both in regards to creation of content and in regards to what might be something that holds you back from supporting the channel in that financial role, that because there are some things that I definitely would like to be able to do, but we are kind of held back by financial limitations. So like we want to be something that if you do support us financially is worth your time. So helping us learn a little bit about that as well. So just slam it in the chat. Pineapple Pizza, you are new to the channel. We're glad you're here. Would love to have your input. So to get started, I do kind of want to go quickly to Billy first, because Billy is breaking into the world of content creation. Billy, when you think content for a card game, what is kind of your philosophy of like what you look for or what you think makes good content?
Set reviews are always a good one. Just, early opinions on cards, any kind of neat interactions that can be established early on. And obviously, as you frequently do, matches with newer cards, matches with, just older formats, Wanderer, Conqueror, anything like that. Like, it's engaging things like that just, keep people's attention.
Sure. What are some things that you think don't make good content?
Reviewing cards one at a time. Opening a pack, talking about the same card over and over and over.
Sure.
Tried that once. That was miserable. But like, that's the big one. Or just if you only play the same kind of thing over and over, like the same kind of matches, like, thankfully that's never a problem with you because you have some crazy things going on and it's always radical. But like, I've definitely seen mostly Magic channels where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna play the same deck against the same decks over and over and over. It's like, cool. I too like to watch paint dry.
Paul, what about you? Same two questions. Kind of like as you approach content, you've always kind of approached content here on the channel in a different way in terms of the responsibility that you've taken on. But from that perspective of like when you think content for something like this, what are things that you think naturally happen or could make good content versus what do you think is something to try to stray away from?
Yeah, so as long as I've known the channel, I've known that it's kind of straddling two different worlds, right? It's trying to be that bridge for the casual player to make it into the competitive scene. And then it's sort of like that bridge for the competitive player to say, like, I'm just going to take a step back and I'm just going to play something fun and just see what's going on. And kind of where I'm seeing, like, and this is kind of coming up in the chat already, is more like content for the new player. So that way we can like share those videos out to folks who are like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I start playing this game? Okay, here's a how to build a deck list. Or hey, I really want to play this ruler in Wanderer, but I have no idea where to begin because I just got into the game. What cards do I need and what do I build? Right. So we're kind of like getting into that we were kind of incubating this idea for a yearbook series where we would sit down and like break down rulers from the past that could be brought into the Wanderer or Conqueror formats now. And just sort of like sitting down and saying, like, how do you play this ruler? And we're still incubating that. We're still doing the creative process around that. But like keeping newer players in mind and recognizing that there are more casual folks than there are competitive folks. So how do we bridge that gap and make both the competitive folks happy and casual folks happy, but also put out good content? That's kind of what I've always seen. So
Sure.
Yeah. What else?
In more your mind, what doesn't make for good content? Like, what is something to try to avoid with those things in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think people really value authenticity. They're like, okay, clearly they're putting this out for my benefit, right? They're not just putting it out there because the algorithm's going to think it's awesome, and it's actually content we want to see people enjoy. So I think for me, that's the kind of stuff I want to do with the tournament report specifically. Like, I always try to have a little bit of fun with it. It's not just information. It's kind of like my opinions or my takes on it as someone who kind of straddles the competitive casual realms myself. So I try and give it at least a little bit of elbow grease to make it a little bit more entertaining than just, here's information, have fun with that. That's not really helpful. Like, just giving people info is overwhelming. So I try and make it a little bit more accessible. And I would say if it's content that is not engaging, kind of like what Billy said, but specifically just information or information that isn't relevant or information that it doesn't like, isn't able to be shared or isn't accessible, and it's got to be authentic. That's kind of where I'm at. If it's not those things, I'm not interested.
For sure. Yeah, I think to transition into kind of where, having now been doing this for 5 years, I think you both have touched on some of the things that were kind of the philosophy mindset of what this channel wanted to be. It wanted to be a place where you were always going to be seeing something different. You don't necessarily know what you were going to watch, but you knew it was going to be something different every single time, which is why I there's been a lot of them, so don't hold me to it, but I don't think there's ever been a time where we've played the same deck in a feature match more than once. I don't think, again, 5 years is a long time, so I might be wrong, but I don't think we've tried to play a different deck every single week. Maybe slight variations, like my take on a Adam Sykehart Reanimator list versus like Paul Klut's take on an Adam Sykehart Reanimator list. Like, okay, that, but not like, hey, my same 40 cards over and over and over again. And at least some, gap in between them. The algorithm does not like small time card games, so that's solved for authenticity's sake. We've never really been about that, which is why you don't see some of the things that those other kind of channels who are pushing towards the algorithm do. Like, we don't do clickbaity titles, or we don't try to do the super like image grabbing thumbnails or whatever. Like, we try to stick to just what we're trying to do. And it's always been the idea of the channel that you come here because you want to see Force of Will, and at some point you don't really ever need to go anywhere else. Not that we don't like other content creators, but the idea is like, I really like deck profiles. Okay, cool, we've got those. I really like tournament reports. Okay, cool, we've got those. I would like matches. Okay, we've got those. I like discussion videos. Okay, we've got that. How to play. Okay, we've got that. The idea was to try to be especially for a game that was non-centralized or a small scale game, a place where a person playing a small scale game could have one channel that they knew was going to give them whatever they needed because it's a small game. So you don't have to go hunting, as it were. That being said, over the course of the channel's history, especially when we transitioned to Ruler School and then moving on, we tried to kind of pick up the mantle of channels that have left, or content creators that have left. That was kind of the reason behind Teacher's Lounge, because, you know, back way far back into the Tavern TCG days and some of the other competitive team days, they would have videos series talking about that like super in-depth competitive mindset and like how to grow it. And that was kind of missing. So then they left and we said, okay, well, that's an avenue we can maybe pick up and things like that. So that's kind of been how we've tried to grow, but that's my opinion on how we've tried to grow, which is why I think having this community discussion right now is good, because I have been playing for 5 years, and so the mindset of a new player who's just getting in terms of what they need might look different. Paul mentioned it, the idea of this new project that we want to work on called the Ruler School Yearbook series is the idea of we will go through Force of Will's history, and every ruler will have some kind of a video saying this was this ruler's gimmick, this was this ruler's like when they graduated, like when they were released, how they were, you know, what their ideas were. Here's a way that you could play it now, and here's why. That's a video series we really would like to do. That's tricky to do when we have 3 people who are living far apart and have to try to do writing and stuff. And again, financial constraints, right? Being able to set aside the time to like pick up assets or make some time into that. But it's something we want to try to work on. I'm seeing things here talking about how to build a deck, or doing more Wanderer content or Conqueror format and everything else. In-depth, more epic story stuff. Secondary card market watching. Who am I bad at that? That would be something that would definitely fall into the realm of Billy Buttons. And I know that Josh Patton was doing it for a while with the Rogues Guild stuff. I think he's kind of slowed down in terms of content because he's a dad of soon to be two different kids. So that, as a dad of 2 kids, I know that takes a lot of time. So I get that for sure. You know, that's definitely something that we can look into. We want the content that's produced to be what people are going to watch because we want them to watch it, not because it makes us anything. Because the more you watch, the more your passion for this game is driven. And that's kind of what the whole point of the channel was always about, was to like show people this game in an engaging way, flashback to what Billy said, that motivates you to want to keep playing. That's kind of been the whole focus. And I think we're doing that, but it's good to hear feedback of what other people would be interested to hear. You know, I'm saying here, CCG Prime talking about epic stories like ruler combos and what's good in them and strategy, not a whole list. Like talking about why you would play these 2 rulers together in epic stories, or market watch. We said that before.
Budget builds of like some of the more popular decks. Yep,
budget builds. We do tournament reports. We haven't had a tournament report. This is kind of our podcast. In terms of that, we've talked about the idea of trying to do a more like actual podcast. The problem becomes the financial element of that, because if you want to do any kind of like podcast transcribing site, it costs a monthly fee to be able to like keep the audio up for people to watch or to listen to. And that's, you know, again, something that we're limited in because we're a small channel. Making a side deck, that's another one. Grey Grumbler talking about side decking. That's a whole topic. I think we did a teacher.
Holy crap!
I think we did a Teacher's Lounge episode on that, so I'll have to go back and look. One of the things, though, for now is hearing all this stuff the kind of transition here is we are at a point in time now where it is not safe, at least for the next few weeks, and maybe longer, for Paul and I to meet in person. Paul and I have been doing the feature matches every week on this table back here, with the new setup, doing the feature matches. But right now in Michigan, it's not safe, which lends us to what do we do about feature matches? So I'm going to put this out there as an idea to the community, and I'd like to hear what you guys think, as well as what the people who are in the chat are here. There's 21 of you, so there's lots of brains to be able to pick from. Is if we were to do kind of a Wednesday night feature match-ish kind of foray into live streaming, would that be something that you'd be interested in? This would be the idea of, we'd start at like 6 p.m. Eastern, and the first like hour would be, let's build a deck. So from the ground up, here's this ruler for the first hour. We're going to talk as a community, talk through my thoughts of, okay, this is the ruler we want to feature this week. Here's the deck that we want to play. Here's why. Here's the color direction we're going to go to, answering your questions and everything else like that. And then from there, for the rest of the night, we play games live. The match that we would play against would probably be something that I would tell Paul to build in advance. I'd probably give Paul a list, probably one of the ones we've played in the past. And then we would just, again, live stream those games for you, having that discussion and kind of making changes and stuff like that. We would do that with Untap, because trying to live stream webcam games is atrocious. It just is. And so that's an idea of what we can do in this meantime when we can't do feature matches. And I'm kind of wondering to hear if there's something about that from the two of you here on the panel with me that you think could be added to that, or make sure to include in that, or if you think that's something that kind of fits these parameters that we've talked about before of what makes good content.
I mean, it seems solid. Like you basically cover A to Z there. You start with the whole, here's how we build this deck. This is what we're doing. These are the ratios, everything else. And then we play. And then it's like, well, we ran into this situation. We play like this, yada, yada, yada. Seems good.
Paul?
I mean, I'm looking for some sort of additional recording equipment. So not just my laptop with a webcam. I'm actually like looking for additional equipment to like maybe stream from above, so that way, even if we had to do like a Discord live stream, I could just set out a mat and we could just have the top down and we could figure that out that way, or we could do it on an Untap. And I mean, we are definitely like making a longer night of it, and that way, you don't have any editing you have to do.
Sure.
For me, I think that's a really good opportunity for us to say, okay, if you're new out in the community, come and see how to build this ruler. This is a great way of doing that. We're going to probably do something later on. Okay, we're going to do a Celesta list, but we're going to do it in this one specific way. There's going to be a video of Celesta on how to build her and what her game plan is later on the channel through like the yearbook or whatever. So I think that could get there. And I don't know, I'd tune in for that. I'd tune in for that live stream, especially if it's not too long. I usually can't do live streams if they're like 8 hours. So.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing 8-hour live streams because they're not GPs. So,
the almost 7-3 dinner time.
The other thing that, with that in mind, and I'm seeing a lot of the chat, and thank you guys so much in the chat for kind of giving us your feedback on this as we're kind of like shopkeeping this live.
Yay, chat.
This is great. So the current philosophy for the channel in terms of content, the content schedule, right, has been Monday night discussion of some kind, whether that be the teacher's lounge, and then we did lesson planning for a bit in the competitive season, and now we have office hours. And then Wednesday is feature match day, feature match with commentary. We have been given pretty consistent feedback about the feature matches, that the feature matches are more enjoyed when they have commentary to them. then rather than with live audio. And we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm just giving that point out. And then sometime in the weekend, usually Friday, Saturday, is a deck profile for those 2 videos of that week, for those two deck profiles of that week. And then we loop it around. So it's like 4 videos a week. Blah, 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 blah. So, places for the chat, Kirik. So then the question becomes, with what we're talking about now, I think this video still exists because this video this series is kind of like the news, current events, spoilers, just, general how's your week in Forcible going. And then we have the Wednesday live streams where we're talking about, we're going to build a deck, we're going to play some matches. What happens to the weekend? And this is again for the chat. Like, what do we fill those deck profile slots with? Because technically we don't need a deck profile video because we just built it live. Or do we still do a deck profile video on the deck that we played that week during the live stream, right? Like, why? Just giving a quick synopsis of like, okay, if you want to see how we build it, go do this. And then if we don't...
Let me ask that in a different way. What content would you guys want to see that would make you want to engage? Because one of my favorite things to do on the channel is just get in the chats and in the comments and just talk with you all.
For sure.
That's something I really, really enjoy. And I mean, sure, algorithmically it's great, but I mean, frankly, I really just want to talk with more people about Force of Will, and being able to do that in the comment section is great. So if there's anything you would like more commenting on, like that kind of stuff, what would force your engagement?
So I know I'm not part of the chat. I mean, I kind of am, but the thing you were touching on, Jeremy, what do you do with that extra day? Like, or like the Saturday, if you do the deck profile on Wednesday, what do you do with Saturday? Afterthoughts.
Yeah.
Like, your thoughts on the deck, thoughts on the matchup, like just kind of like a recap of previous events, and like, where if you're looking to take this deck in a more competitive, direction, which way would you take it? If you're looking to take it in a more, casual direction, what would you take it? If you could turn it into like an Epic Stories ruler, where would you take it?
That's a good idea. Almost kind of like so like the weekends kind of become like a deck garage or a deck doctor for what we built earlier in the week, right? And so like Monday's discussion, Wednesday is we're going to build a deck, we're going to play it for a while, have some gameplay there. And then that weekend is, okay, we played it for a while. How do we improve it? How do we make it better? And then rips us back. Yep, I'm seeing that a lot in the chat too. People talking about refine the deck list, changes you would make, afterthoughts, stuff like that. So that's definitely for sure good. Might be cool with the time constraints. Show another build of the deck and describe how it's similar, which builds you would better address different matchups. Maybe. Fan-made rulers, custom-made rulers. Ooh. That's
no. Oh no.
Where's my 10 Shoku boxes, Jeff?
Shayla 2, here we come. Shayla 2.
What is Lancelot J Judgment?
Second Lancelot. I was gonna say, just two. It's Lancelot on one side, and the other side it's just 2 Lancelots.
Comes into play, puts in 2 copies of Lancelot, Knight of Mad Demon.
A lot of Lance.
A lot of Lance. So
God.
This is
good.
This is very, very good stuff. So that brings us to kind of the next point, which is obviously video content. We want to be able to do what you guys want, right? But the natural limitation of content creation, the natural limitation of having ideas is at a point finances, in terms of, especially if we want to try to improve stuff or like get Paul a better camera setup or get better recording equipment, whatever. So to that point, YouTube has been gracious enough to allow smaller channels like us to be able to start the membership program, which a lot of you have taken advantage of, and we're greatly appreciative of that. The question becomes, you naturally give us some financial support just by watching. And so that's why we never paywall videos. Videos themselves will never be paywalled. GP streams, and when we were doing the Teachers Lounge live, those chats were paywalled. And I stand by that because it's been meaningful discussion and it helps to avoid spam and stuff like that, which smaller channels like us can attract. You'd be surprised. So then the question becomes, as we're creating this channel, as we're creating this content, as we're focusing, what are some things that you might look to as incentives or motivators to help you take that step into kind of considering supporting us financially? Because I recognize that any time someone decides to support us financially, it's an immense blessing. We are literally people with cardboard making videos for people on the internet. So I want it to always be worth. Oh my gosh, where's that echo coming from? Is it Paul?
Echo.
Yep, it's
No.
Paul.
It's me. How?
Somehow your microphone is picking up the audio that you're hearing of us.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
Billy Button's
Weird.
calendar. I don't know if I can convince Billy to do that. So the question becomes, we want you to support your choice, the decision to support us financially in a more direct role, to be worth that, to feel like you're getting enough out of it. So nothing is changing as of now, but it's important for us to, again, listen to the community of what are some things where, if you were to have decide to finance us, you would want as an incentive. Marshall, there is currently a tier where you can play against me every single month without even being a raffle. There's a tier in the memberships. I think it's the $5 a month tier, and you get a game a month with me if you choose to use it. That you can just play with one of us here. Ruler School OnlyFans account? Nope. That's not happening. That's not happening. But
whole shizer.
Whole shizer. So any kind of ideas that you want to give it to us either now or in the comments or anything else, that's always appreciated. We do what we can to do the best with what we can, but there are limitations. That being said, we do have awesome opportunities thanks to sponsors. One being Odyssey Games, two being all the companies. Charlie DeMule, welcome to the support staff level. I think Nick DeMule is Charlie, right? So Charlie,
yep.
Thank you, and Marshall, thank you very much for supporting us. Very much. You can. Sorry, hold on. I gotta give my spiel. You can go ahead and pick up your syllabus in the office and report to class. So thank you for joining us here at Ruler School. It could feature Mr. Bowater art. Again, if you're making
family friendly.
If you're making these suggestions, I don't think you know who I am. Like there's a reason why. Anyway, so
just a very appropriate school themed like Ruler School calendar.
Yeah,
I support this.
They came out. I want a minute. They came out with an entire Academy archetype in this set, and not a single person reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Jeremy, do you want to be a card?" Come on. Anywhoozle. An entire Academy. So crazy.
It's because they're working on that promo of Last Audience for you.
Yeah, that's the other one. That's
the reason.
Last Audience and any of the students. Those are my two. Those are my two cards. But regardless of people joining us a channel, and thank you to those of you who have joined Team today and everything else. We do have some wonderful sponsors, being Odyssey Games and all the people who decide to sponsor the streams, the GP streams. Those are big helps. But we also have wonderful content. He's a member of the channel too, and that's being CCG Prime, ccgprime.com, Mr. Dan Rowland. He recently ran a giveaway, so we're gonna go ahead and do that giveaway now, where he was giving away prizes from Epic of the Dragon Lord. He posted it on Facebook. We posted the links. You got for making purchases, you got entries and everything else. So we're giving away some prizes here. So the first prize is and so you kind of know if you're entered or not, but we're going to do the drawings anyway. So the first and second prize are both for a playmat from the pre-release of Epic of the Dragonlord. So our 2 winners there are Randy Luna and Logan Robert. So Dan, listen to me. Randy Luna and Logan Robert won the 2 playmats. And then the 2 winners of the next 2 prizes were playsets of the participation promo from the Epic of the Dragonlord pre-release. Winners for that are Travis Tran and Jeremy Beans Monty. So congrats to you guys. And then the last prize was a full set, that's 1 of each, of the 5 Marvel Rares from Epic of the Dragonlord in foil. So nice value there. And our winner is Dustin Kendall. So congrats to all of you there. Dan will reach out to you for your address information and everything else. And we can do things like that because of these wonderful sponsors that we have. And so we try to... I'm sure the channel is big enough right now that if I wanted to try to contact Raid Shadow Legends and all these other brand deals, we could. But in the purpose of being authentic, thank you, we don't do that because those ads are always dumb and they're always annoying. I don't need Raycon everyday E25s. I don't care about how good they sound, whatever. This channel is about card games, and ultimately we want it to be about the card games, and we want to focus on providing you the best card game content. So, let's see. I'm looking here in the chat. Marvel Rare Jeremy Wynn. Oh, I would love it to be a Marvel Rare. It'd have to have the gloves on it, though. I'm not the Academy Guard. No, I wish I was. Hooray, hooray.
Well, I think his fiance is just upset that she didn't get the 5 Marvel Rares.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I think so.
So, you know, I'm hearing, I kind of want to go, now that we've done that,
Yes.
but it would be authentic to the YouTube channel experience. So I kind of want to go back to this live stream of this idea of the new content schedule in terms of this, as the game has evolved, as Force of Will has evolved, how does content evolve? Particularly, again, talking about this live stream, right? With the idea that we're mentioning on Wednesdays of Build a Deck Live, Play It. I said before, Mike Rant's joining us for the rest of
What up, boys?
Mike Rant's joining us for the last half here.
Oh my gosh, I lost hope.
Oh, is that the boy?
That's the boy.
It's the boy.
Yeah.
This is it.
Just got back from date night. We got cheesecake.
Nice.
Nice.
What kind of cheesecake?
Well, she got like this white chocolate raspberry truffle cheesecake, and I got like this cinnamon roll thing, and it was amazing.
Solid choices. So,
Oh wait, it's Billy Button's on the stream. Look at this boy.
Dog, what's poppin'?
What's poppin'?
so to talk about this idea of this Wednesday night stream to temporarily replace feature matches, or maybe just permanently replace them, at least for, you know, based on how successful they are. There comes this idea of, like I said before, with our feature matches, when it's been live audio, it's never been viewed as highly, or the comments don't reflect as highly as when we try to bring like full commentary, like after the match, no table audio, competitive commentary. When we have when we have this idea of a live stream, that opens us up to the process of, okay, if we're going to be playing this deck for 2 hours, maybe potentially after we built it, what do you want out of those matches? Do you want it to be live audio? Do you want it to be an in-depth discussion of how we're playing? Do you want it to be a third party who's part of the stream watching it and providing commentary? Again, this is something that we are wanting to try to evolve. So again, chat, put in your comments and we'll talk about them. I want to kind of go around the room. Billy, in your impression, you have this 2-hour time slot after we just spent the time build a deck. How do we approach that gameplay to make it the most engaging and best for the audience? Like live audio, commentary from a third party, mix of both. What do you do with that?
I feel like commentary is probably the best way to go, only because like unless you're doing like a tutorial as compared to like a deck profile, live audio is much better for like tutorials where you're just like, so here's the play I have, here's what I'm gonna run down, da 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 da, walking them through every step. But if you have a third party, then you get to play a match. You get to play a match to the best of your ability. The person you're playing against gets to play a match to the best of their ability, and then other people just get to commentate on it. It's like when we were in Minnesota.
It is the best to be able to just focus
Just
and
get
play.
commentate literally everything.
Well, we'll talk about how exactly we're going to get that to work here in a little bit. Paul, from your perspective, 2-hour time slot after just building a deck that night. How do we approach the matches for that night?
I think I'm so distracted by the chat. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to put you guys away. You're ridiculous.
Sorry, I'm here to cause
It's all
chaos.
Mike's fault. This craziness. I would probably even just take a game and then just sit down and like discuss it a little bit. Even just like, how would you have done that differently? What was the best? Did I make the best plays, etc. like that? Because that would give people some insight into saying, okay, so if he did play X, Y, and Z instead of Z, Y, and X or whatever, like the sequencing piece, which is always the hardest part of Forcible for anyone to learn, I think, is the sequencing. I think that would really give some people some commentary, and then we could just have that discussion with the chat as if they are like right there. That being said, I just realized we didn't, because Mike just got here. Are we going to talk about what he values in content?
We'll get there.
No.
We'll get there. Okay, so it is happening.
I'm gonna bookend it with Mike.
my
Keep
opinion
it
does
PG,
not matter.
okay, Mike?
Actually, I wanted to kind of ask you guys: are we talking like we're like live building a deck from scratch, or are you thinking like deck doctor type things where people submit the decks with their ideas?
We're talking about
and then
we're talking about how Wednesday night feature matches due to COVID, or Wednesday feature matches due to COVID, and Paul and I not being able to meet up are going to, at least temporarily and maybe in the long term, shift to being a Wednesday night live stream with building a deck for the ruler we wanted to feature that week live, and then going into games with that ruler after the fact, for the rest of whatever the nighttime is. If that's what we're talking about, Mike.
Okay, gotcha. I do like the idea of the deck doctor, though.
Yeah, that would become what our feature matches, or that would become what our deck profile videos become, because like you've seen the list earlier in the week, right? Playing the feature match. So then the idea would be the deck profile videos would be more of a, okay, we built it live, we played it, here's how he would maybe tweak it and make it better. Gosh dang it, Mike.
And Billy, I knew exactly where that was going the moment you wrote the second part of it.
So I do want to talk about, I like this idea. It seems like for the most part people are kind of on board with the idea of this third-party commentator. The question becomes, how do we best facilitate that? And that's something that we need to look into, particularly because the way we host these streams and the way that we do feature matches is that I'm playing the deck. And it's kind of hard to play a deck and have discussion with my opponent while I'm also trying to pick up commentary audio without hearing the commentary.
Yeah, third party is probably the best way to go about that, honestly. And also, like, with a third party commentator, as long as they know the cards in somebody's hand, they can make really good educated commentary from both sides,
Sure.
rather than one person making the commentary being like, hey, I have this in my hand, I'm going to use this. And the opponent's like, haha, I'm playing green.
What is a good way to do that?
We'll figure it
That's a
out.
pretty good
We'll
question.
figure it out. And so kind of my lead into that to the community is to tell you that, like,
Third
we
party.
hear you.
Oh, man.
We hear you. and we know that this is something
Man.
that you're very interested. Let me add Ryan. Aaron West.
Toby with that real shit right there. Have a raffle to have a member or a person in the chat do it. Oh,
We're gonna have a conversation about this at a later date.
Oh.
But anyway, I do want to professional commentator from the Boulevard. Yeah, he's too busy doing Legends of Runeterra stuff and doing quite well at it.
Yeah. Big nerd.
But I do.
He's popping
He is
off.
popping off. So this is this. You've given us a lot of good feedback in terms of how we can approach it. We probably won't get anything like this for this week. We might try to be able to do a kind of a take one of it as an experiment. But this has been wonderful feedback, and we really appreciate it, you guys. I do kind of want to comment on a thing here. Naira007 said also better mic quality. That was back when I was talking about third-party commentators, whether to bring them in or not. I'm wondering if you can be a little bit more specific about, is there something up with our mics that I'm having issues with? Because the wonderful thing about live streaming is that when you're doing it on Discord, is that I think everyone sounds good through these headphones that are plugged into my computer. But YouTube encoding and then sending data to you might make the audio sound bad. So I don't know that. So if people can give us the feedback, that would be great. And that's one of the other things that supporting the channel as a member financially can help too, because then we can buy better microphones.
Give Jeremy money.
Don't do...
Lots of money.
I mean, I'm for it.
For his great content.
I'm for it.
Yes. Support your local content creators.
Hell yeah. Heck yeah. Family friendly.
You need a Waldor and Stadler Force of Will Muppets.
Listen, Billy and I could do it.
You're not wrong.
Man, that guy's attack
No, we're
stance is
not.
really doing great.
It's a garbage can.
So in match commentary, when one mic picks up both players, the quality suffers. Oh yeah, for sure. That's why with our that's why in GPs we don't have a table mic for the players, and why we do commentary from a without table audio. Because that same kind of
weekend foul ASMR matches. Okay, Steven.
Yeah, I think Steven's done for the night. There, let me just
Absolutely not.
just kick Steven. I can put the user in timeout.
That's rude. Don't do that. That was a great
No,
idea.
it's fine.
You mean detention?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. I'll give him more power. I'll make him a moderator. That's the opposite of what I should be doing.
Oh, jeez.
What could go wrong?
You're not putting him in timeout. You are sealable in anything.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's our 10,000 subscriber special, Force of Will ASMR.
Bold of you to think that I only have one account. No, now Steven's recognizing that we have, because the idea being that ultimately, I know that this is Force of Will, and I know that Force of Will is a small game, but in the grand scheme of things, a big part of the back of my mind, especially in this era of COVID, has been: Are people more engaged in videos, or are people more engaged in streams? Right? That's always a question. Card games naturally tend to lend themselves towards matches, towards videos. However, in COVID, because that's just how it's always been, right? But COVID has kind of shifted people to being more interested and more engaged in like streams and stuff, right? So then the question becomes, how do we match that, or do we need to match that? Steven's sad because he can't time himself out. I would love to get to a point.
So that's a power move, honestly.
Yeah, I would love to get to a point where maybe we even actually need moderators in the chat, because right now I don't. Steven's a moderator that has no purpose, because our chats don't get big enough. Streams would be great, but videos aren't bad either. So it sounds like people are still sending they want a blend of that, which is great, there's certainly something we can do. This feedback is excellent. Thank you all so much in the chat. This is what we want. I think for this last 15 minutes, especially now that we have Mike here, I'm going to give Mike the questions I gave the other guys at the beginning, and then
Oh, shit,
And then
nice.
I kind
Let's
of
go.
just want to talk about Epic of the Dragon Lord because like it's a good set.
It's a really
Um,
good set.
Very good
So
set.
Mike Rants,
That's me.
you've been deleted. You've been Mike. You've been timed out by Steven in the chat.
I have nice.
Jeez, Louise.
We're the online tournament from last.
We'll talk about
That's-
that in a minute. He failed with Rance's deck. I watched.
I mean, he went 3-1. That's not failing.
He also got like Fari of Voltron put in some work against the Alter deck. I'm just gonna say,
Did you say Faria Voltron? Ooh.
its only loss in the tournament was to the winner Gerardo, who was also.
Yeah, Gerard's amazing.
But
I love
it was impressive to see that deck pilot, to see that deck do so well against building. Turns out awkward bounces while building is trying to search is really good.
I'm so glad building stuck.
So I do want to talk about Mike. I had these two questions of from your perspective of when you think of content, specifically when you think of card game content, in your mind, what is like the framework or like the mindset behind what makes good content for you? Like what is a content where you go like, oh, that was enjoyable to watch, or like this is the kind of stuff I want to watch?
If everything is done in 575 syllable
Okay,
format.
real answer though.
Okay, but like the real answer now. I think the biggest thing is just like having a way that having something where players can input their own creative ideas and kind of learn something from the video, but at the same time see opinions that differ from theirs. I've actually been a huge proponent of top 10 videos because I watch them for games I don't play anymore, just because I love knowing how people determine the usefulness of cards,
Sure.
how that differentiates in my mind, and just I don't know, if you're doing something based on like just trying to get a lot of like good community feedback, good interaction between people, that tends to be the best way, because most of the time if you're putting up like a deck profile or a deck, the commentary goes, I would put this in my deck, or I would have done this play at 32-10 that nobody else was doing, and it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's good commentary, but it's not like actively moving things forward in terms of a player's understanding of how to, first of all, evaluate cards, and second of all, how to kind of think outside the box of what they know about the card game as it is now.
Sure.
I love videos that open things up to discussion. Charlie with the King of Dumpster Fire top 10.
So
correct.
then the follow-up question to that is, in your mind, what isn't good content? What's like, I don't want to say like, why did you make this video, but like videos where you look at it and you go, okay, why would I watch this? That kind of like for a card game.
You mean like box openings?
Like box openings. It can be box openings.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of box openings, but I understand people that love to watch box openings, living vicariously through people opening up like a shitload of content. Because I know I love watching Billy open boxes because Billy's just an entertaining person, but the opening of a box doesn't excite
Sure.
me very much. What I want to see is discourse over what the contents of that box is. If the video is creating something that isn't breaking the mold of what we think content should be, or at least challenging the opinions of other people, or even just challenging how people generally think of the game, it's not something that I really tend to watch.
Naira is saying the game is dead videos are definitely videos they don't want to watch. You're right.
Right.
So what?
But they get a lot of views because it's like, oh, I'm going to put my face doing this in the thumbnail. Oh, impact font.
Oh, the impact font got me.
Impact font, white text, black border, 2 points. I make them on PowerPoint. It's not that hard.
Oh. Jeez, that's funny. So, thank you very much. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Much. I swear.
Sometimes my brain my brain just shuts off when I listen to you sometimes.
It's okay. Mine does too.
He has that effect on people.
So
With
let's
love.
talk about Epic of the Dragon Lord a little bit, just in terms of casual
please.
chat. Last 10 minutes. I'm really Matt Seymour, that Game is Dead video from that dude a week ago is so full of wrong information, so I reported it as false info. Savage.
Wait, there's a
It's
new
from
one?
It's probably the one from Burp.
Oh.
But
okay.
Matt reported it because it's false.
Game
That's funny. Good on you. But no, let's talk about Epic of the Dragon Lord. I will go last because I could talk about this set for a long time. Billy.
I'm okay. So the fact that we finally get a Ragnarok ruler, like regardless of the abilities, the fact that we have this big ass interdimensional dragon, just like finally here, finally in the game, finally personified. Because I stopped playing like right before Minnesota. Like Collinsville was when I decided, we're gonna do the commentary thing with Jeremy. Da 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 da. This set has made me regret that decision with so much fervor that it's unreal. Every single ruler is unique. Every single ruler is interactive. Every single ruler is just cool. Like, how long has it been since we've had a set where every single ruler does something neat? It's always been, oh, look, it's Sherry. Oh, look, it's Lumia. Oh, look, it's Sherry's still banned, but who cares? It's still Sherry. But, like, Welter's gonna like flood the board with stones. Ragnarok's gonna do dragon things and drop 4-drops on turn 1. Celeste. Lilius is gonna magical arrow you to death. Like everything is cool. Like everything is awesome. And this set has me. I'm so angry that I'm like not gonna have time to play anytime soon. I'm very happy for all the other things I'm gonna be doing. But holy crap, this set is cool.
Agreed. Paul?
What I like about this set is and they said, okay, we're going to hit reset. We're going to go back to the square one. We're going to start Force of Will over, kind of. Soft reboot. Let's just go very basic, very chill. Give you a second hand so you're interested, but we're just going to go very basic stones. Everything's going to be just right down to the ground. We're going to go very linear. And then they broke it out. They took us back in time, and they gave us Alice Cluster stuff with new flavor, with new story and everything. So they're still clearly thinking about all of this stuff. And then we get here to this cluster, and then it feels like old Force of Will, but also new.
For sure.
And I don't know how they did that, but the fact that I'm playing this game and I'm like, wow, this feels really familiar. And I like this, but it's also balanced and it's good, and it's not like red is the most bonkers colors.
I think what it is that the definition of power has been expanded. I think for a very long time, especially New Valhalla, when we got to DBV, but even leading up to it, like even the entirety of New Valhalla, even in towards the end of Rhea Cluster 2, power was just board state impact. Like, if a card did not have board state impact, it was a weak card. And in the original history of Force, in the way back machine of Force of Will, power was not just impact on board state. It was contribution to an engine. It was being able to respond to something, being able to give you protection. Like, what made something strong in the history of Force of Will, what made a card powerful, wasn't just one thing. And I think as the power creep has expanded into New Valhalla, that got narrowed. Right? And I think the rune decks are a pretty keen example of that, of like how narrowed power became. Because if you look at rune decks became what runes impact the board. Like, what runes will impact the board state. And if it wasn't a rune that impacted a board state, it was not a good card. Just straight up not. And now we're all going crazy over Kiki, which is literally just Cheshire Cat.
Kiki.
But like that card is good. Like that card is a powerful card.
The best.
And all it's doing is drawing you cards. If you looked at in New Valhalla era, I don't think that we would have seen a card like Kiki and been like, "Yep, this is amazing." Because we
had a card like Kiki. It was Dark Alice Rabbit Princess, and it was
and it was
terrifying.
better because it did all these other things. The draw card was a bonus, right? I think if Dark Alice Rabbit Princess was just the draw sack, we would all been like, "Oh, I mean, okay, we've got okay, this is good," right? But it was but like Kiki is just that part of it, and we're all going nuts because I think Alice Origins into this set has been a redefining of what power is. And I think it's a redefining of what power is back in the OG days of Force, which is why it's so much fun. Like playing a card. Go ahead.
Another thing, another big thing about the power creep is that obviously we've seen power creep generally in stats, in some enter abilities, but there doesn't feel like there's anything as huge of an enter ability as there were in New Valhalla this time around. We have like really good effects, but nothing crazy strong. And just if you're gonna power creep a game, at least make the cards interesting design-wise, so that you incentivize people to play both the power crept and the non-power crept cards. Like you just you need some sort of balance to it in order to make it interesting.
And I think to me, in my game so far, now mind you, I've only personally piloted Celesta so far for this meta, but I've played against and watched some other people playing the other rulers. Like, they are playing cards that don't have an immediate board state impact, but still feel good to play. And I think that's the big difference for this set and why I like it. Like, Ryan Miles' example. Like, Ryan Miles... hey, Google, play In My Feelings by Drake. So... I can't say that too loud because my phone would pick it up. I don't want to... so, like, Ryan Miles did a top 10 list for Val Library. And a lot of the cards on those lists are cards that don't have a direct impact on board state, but still feel really good to play. Like the blue 1-drop quick cast 4/4 stun dude. That guy feels great. He is a 1-drop 4/4 without an enter effect. And he feels great. Like,
because it's how you play the card. It's rewards you for how you play it, not for having. Like Kaguya was like, all right, cool. I have this and I have Rune 2.
Yeah.
I guess I just win the game now. And now we're just like, all right, cool. We have this 4/4 with quick cast that does symmetrical, powerful effects depending on how I time it. Let me think about it. And it's like now you actually have to like learn how to play the game and do things correctly.
I think that's a big piece of it.
Like,
and it's just like even within itself, like I don't think going through this set there was a single card that I was just like, I don't think this card has a place anywhere. Like, I think I could find a way to put every single card in this set into a deck. Not necessarily competitive, but like I could find a way to play it. So the frog thing is based on how people are ruling it. I know Italy is ruling that if it does damage, it bounces itself, which I think is incorrect. But right, return El Resonator. So like the language there is weird. But like I don't think there's been a single card in that set that in some way, shape, or form I'm like, yeah, I could put this into it. And there have been Force of Will sets for the past 2 years where I'm just like, why did they print this card? What does this card even do? I don't even care.
Another big thing about this set that I think is probably my favorite part of it so far is that for every single ruler, there doesn't feel like there's a definitive way to play that ruler. Like, I haven't been able to be like, yeah, this ruler can only do this, this ruler can only do
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. You must have just. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I can't. I can hear you right now. It sounds fine. Steven, stop throttling Mike's bandwidth with your mod powers. It might be. It might be my internet's dying. That might be. Well, yeah, you sound fine to us. So I think, to speak to that, is one of the biggest complaints we had with Alice Origins Cluster was that the decks felt too pre-constructed. Like, Prisiad lists will always look the same. Felt Varia lists will always look the same. And I think they kind of needed to do that as a way to get us back to this reset. What we've seen with this cluster, because these rulers need to be able to compete, and one of the ways that you can help the way that you can help diversity compete against like factory is by doing just that, is like by having factory, because then these diversity kind of rulers that you can build in a lot of different ways can have known concepts that they have to try to beat, and so then you can experiment with them and build them in a certain way. So I think we've hit that in a very nice way. So, and that's the thing to me that I think has been very, very nice. And again, I think they've hit the nail on the head with this set. I have seen at least 6 different Lilius variants. Like at least 6. Like completely different ways to build Lilius. I have seen at least 3 or 4 different takes on Welser. I have seen so many different Ragnarok takes, but it's a singleton ruler, so like, duh. I have, but one of the biggest complaints, Ken Tober at Collinsville told me that one of his biggest frustrations, even coming back into the game, was that he felt like he didn't get to flex his deck building concepts because the decks were just like, this is the deck. Like, the set came out and this was the deck. And to him, that was really frustrating. And I can't look at Epic of the Dragon Lord and go, yeah, I know exactly what Celesta is. Definitive. This is the way you have to build her. Not in the slightest. And I think that's why I love it so much. Because... Right. And again, to speak to what you said, something really nice, Mike, that I think I kind of want to close on. I'll ask Billy and Paul's final thoughts after this. You mentioned that you were rewarded for playing the game well and and how you used the card rather than for having the card. And I think that speaks a lot to what Force of Will started as, especially being it's the cheap game that it was. You weren't rewarded for having the card, it was how you used it. And then New Valhalla was this era of you rewarded for having the card, not how you used it. And now we're kind of coming back to that era of it's not about having it, it's about your application, which is great. So final thoughts from Billy, final thoughts from Paul, and then I'll close this out. Oh. Everyone but me is muted, apparently. My Discord is having an issue. And Jeremy, all you hear is my breathing. 1 second. Hold, please. Do this. We'll do this. Take 2, maybe? If this is the issue, well, I mean, we have passed the hour mark, so maybe my computer is telling me to stop. So I'll go ahead and close this here, and Paul, you'll have to save your thoughts for another day. Yeah, well, if they can't hear you, they can't hear you. Yeah, still broke. Okay, so for that, thank you guys so much. We'll try to figure out what happened with the audio here. Thank you all so much for having this awesome conversation with us and for giving us your thoughts. Stay tuned this Wednesday for our first ever deck building match having live stream, whatever that's going to look like. And until next time, this has been myself, Demo73. I've been joined by Billy Buttons, who you can't hear, Mike Rants, who you also can't hear. Although I will say that we started having problems when Mike showed up, so I blame Mike, and Paul Reisman. And we're saying, class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.